Gerbils are social animals and generally shouldn't live alone, but they can't just be put together straight away as this will likely lead to fighting. The safest way to introduce gerbils is using something called the split cage or split tank method. And today I'm going to be helping you through the step-by-step process. There's also a written version of this guide available to download in the description. Before starting the split tank process, there's some important points that you should be aware of. The first thing to know is that success isn't guaranteed with any method of bonding. Although the split tank method is the one that has the highest likelihood of success, sometimes two gerbils just aren't a good match. Stay tuned until the end because I'll be going over what to do if your split tank fails and how to maintain the bond to minimise the risk of declanning later down the line. When bringing new animals into your home, you should first quarantine them to make sure they don't have any illnesses to pass to your other animals. The vet recommended quarantine period is 45 to 90 days, depending on how worried you are about the conditions they came from. If you decide to skip the quarantine, you're taking the risk of the new gerbil passing illnesses to your other animals. But if you really need to skip quarantine and go straight to bonding, you can minimise the effect on other animals by quarantining your current gerbil along with your new gerbil. That way your gerbils would be the only ones getting sick, and any other animals in the home would be protected. As we mentioned earlier, gerbils can't just be put together straight away. They're generally very aggressive towards unfamiliar rodents and can, and do, attack on sight. This means if you just put two unfamiliar gerbils together in a tank, it's highly likely that they'll fight, and gerbils can fight to the death. This is why it's important to follow a careful introduction method designed to maximise the safety of the gerbils and humans as much as possible, such as the split tank method. Gerbils primarily use scent to identify clan members, so swapping scents so that each gerbil smells like the other is the most important element of bonding gerbils. Make sure you don't deep clean while doing the split tank, as this will undo all your efforts to mix their scents and effectively takes you back to the start. You can spot clean if you notice particularly soiled areas, but make sure to only remove the soiled section of bedding and leave most of it untouched. Then replace the soiled bedding with fresh if needed. In some cases, the neutral space method can work, but this seems to be very hit or miss, and it could be very dangerous if it goes wrong, so I don't recommend it. Once a pair or group of gerbils have reached maturity, they tend to treat any new gerbil as an intruder to their clan. They will likely reject the new gerbil and possibly attack them, or the new gerbil could destabilise the bonds in the clan and cause them to fall out and fight with each other. And even if the bonding works initially, they often end up declanning later down the line. Additionally, the most stable group formation in gerbils is pairs. While pairs can still fall out and declan, it's less likely than in larger groups. So because of this, it's recommended that split tanks only be done one-to-one. The only exception to this rule is introducing two very young prepubescent pups to an adult. This usually works best with males as they're more accepting and less territorial. It could possibly work with females if there's the right match of personalities, but for females, one-to-one is safest. When getting a new gerbil to bond with your current gerbil, it can be a good idea to look for another gerbil of a similar age. This is so that they have a similar match of energies. If an old gerbil wants to sleep more, they won't appreciate being climbed all over by an energetic pup, for example. But if you're getting a pair of young pups, then the two young ones can keep each other occupied while the older one rests. In my opinion though, a successful bond, and a lasting one, depends more on the right match of personalities than on age. If you have a very pushy or anxious gerbil, they may benefit from being matched with someone who's more laid back, calm, and happy to go with the flow. The best way to think about it is in terms of Timons and Pumbas. No, not those ones. These ones. Timon is very alert and anxious, and as such, he feels the need to control situations to make himself feel better. Whereas Pumba is very relaxed and generally confident in his ability to not get eaten, so he's not so bothered about being in control. He's quite happy to just go along with whatever. It doesn't really matter to him. So imagine two Timons, both anxious, both wanting to be in control. That could easily lead to fights. The reason why Timon and Pumba's relationship is so successful is because there's at least one Pumba. Our gerbils are the same. My own Timon and Pumba had a very stable relationship. I believe because of their personalities. Timon was, well, a Timon, and Pumba was a Pumba. So if you've got a calm Pumba, they could bond with Timons or Pumbas, but if you've got an anxious Timon, they ideally need a Pumba to limit the risk of potential fights for control. If you can't make a divider for your tank, you can instead put a small tank topper inside a larger tank and weigh it down to prevent them from escaping. You could also use 2 small tanks or bin cages side by side. With both of these alternatives, you can continue to swap sides and follow the split tank process as usual. Scent swapping is the most important factor. But if you're up to a bit of DIY, I have a guide taking you through the step-by-step process of building a split tank divider, linked in the description. Female gerbils can go into heat every 4 to 6 days for around 8 to 12 hours. And when they're in heat, they can get a bit pushier and weirder with their friends. I tend to avoid playdates or tank upgrades when I know one of them is due into heat, or I've seen signs of heat. Excessive foot thumping when seeing the other gerbil. Although if they do this consistently and in the absence of other heat signs, then it likely means they're anxious instead. Running towards the other gerbil, then turning back. They may also stick their rear end in the other gerbil's face. Like previously, in the absence of other heat signs, it could also mean they're unhappy with their partner. Excessive scent marking. They'll likely be more active and scent mark things in their enclosure, including their new friend, more often than usual. In a split tank, this can also mean they're stressed by or haven't fully accepted the presence of the other gerbil in the absence of other heat signs. Mounting. The gerbil in heat may attempt to mount the other gerbil, and the recipient gerbil will tend to run away. Make absolutely sure that they're both the same gender if they appear to be mating. Lordosis posture, which is a raised rear end when their lower back is touched. You may not see this when they're separated unless you touch their back, but don't do this more than once to check, ideally not at all, as it stresses them out. This sign confirms the gerbil is in heat. And now that we've covered all that, we can start the split tank process. The first thing we need to do is set up our split tank. The tank can be any size. It doesn't seem to make much of a difference. You could use a glass tank or a large plastic tub, as long as the plastic has completely smooth sides with no ridges that they could chew. Ideally, this will be a new tank that neither gerbil has seen before. But if you're using a tank that they've been housed in previously, you can remove some of the old scents by cleaning with a 50-50 white vinegar and water solution, followed by some pet safe disinfectant. While they're bonding, the bedding doesn't need to be too low, as long as it's low enough that they can still access their water bottles. This will likely only be a maximum of 3 to 4 inches before they start burying them. If the bedding gets too high from all their shredding, simply take out a few handfuls and keep it to the side. It'll come in handy later. You can also include a hide on each side. I like to use open-ended wood bridge hides so they can go back to back against the divider. This way, even when they're hiding from people or something else that spooked them, they're still close to each other. You can try and include a chew-proof wheel if you're able to, but it may just end up getting buried. If you use a wooden wheel, be prepared for the gerbils to try and destroy it. I had to remove mine. As well as bedding, hides and water bottles, you'll also need a plentiful supply of chew toys. We want to make sure they have plenty to do. A stressed and unhappy animal won't be good at making friends. I know I'm not a good friend when I'm grumpy. Some people may insist that split tanks need to be tiny, with barely any bedding and no toys. I haven't done this with either of my successful bondings, and Anna over at the Justice for Gerbil Sanctuary always gives her bondings plenty to do and lots of space. And as long as the personalities are the right match, they bond just fine. Put the gerbils on opposite sides of the split. Scatter their daily food near the divider to help build up a positive association with each other. Then swap them over once per day, ideally when they're already awake. For at least the first week, keep them completely separate during swaps. You can use a pet carrier to hold one of them while you swap the other. You'll also need to add new chew toys regularly to keep them entertained. It may be a good idea to ask friends, family or neighbours to help with cardboard provisions as they go through them at lightning speed. After a minimum of a week in the split tank with daily swaps, if there's positive signs, you can attempt a playdate. You'll need to remove all hides from the calmest gerbil side. And you may need to take out some bedding so they can't hide under it. Just keep the bedding aside to put back in after the meet. And make sure to wear thick gardening gloves to protect your hands in the event of a fight that needs separating. Then put the pushy gerbil on the calm gerbil side to minimize territorial behaviour. Don't push the meat for too long. If you see signs of aggression such as one back arching or relentless chasing, separate them. You may only get a few minutes on the first day, if that. With Luna and Pumba, I got a minute or 2. With Luna and Misty, it was 20 minutes. The goal is to try and extend their positive time together with every meet. So if the first meet is only 1 or 2 minutes before things start looking negative, that's fine. Just try for a bit longer on their next meet. We want to try and keep their time together as positive as possible, so they can associate each other with good experiences. If there are lots of negative signs in your playdate, give them at least a couple more days in the split and without negative signs before trying again. Some positive signs to look for are, in the split, friendly sniffs at the divider, general disinterest in one another, sleeping in each other's nests after swaps, hanging out near the divider and near each other, attempted grooming through the divider, and progressively less scent marking. On playdates, general disinterest in one another, grooming, and snuggles. This is the major positive sign we look for and generally indicates a successful bond, more so than the other signs. And some negative signs include, in the split, constant foot thumping when seeing the other gerbil. If it only happens every few days, it could be a sign of heat instead. Constant scent marking that hasn't reduced since starting the split, and attempting to attack the other gerbil through the divider. And on playdates, lots of body tension, constant chasing. A short chase is okay as long as it's not persistent and unrelenting. Side arching, this would be the equivalent of growling in dogs. And fighting, which is not so affectionately known as a death ball. If you see this, separate them immediately. Don't wait to see if it resolves, don't grab your camera, don't pass go, just separate them the moment you see it. The sooner you intervene, the higher chances of no one being injured. I can't stress this enough. If they were okay together yesterday, you can attempt another playdate. But if they were immediately and/or extremely aggressive, give it at least a day, possibly a few days more before trying again. You can keep them together for up to a few hours if they're not showing aggressive signs. Scatter some of their food throughout the tank to give them a distraction, as well as some positive reinforcement. You can also add some chew toys like cardboard as another distraction and something else to do. If the playdates don't go well, just split them, keep swapping sides as usual, and try meets again every few days. Once they've had a few hours together successfully, with snuggles, this is the most important sign, split them overnight one last time and move on to step 5. Choose a day that you can stay with them and watch them all day. Then put your pushy gerbil on the calm gerbil side first thing in the morning and watch them closely all day. If you see lots of positive signs, especially snuggles, you can let them have a sleepover. I like to keep them in my room overnight for the first few nights, so I can hear any shenanigans. After a successful sleepover, you can remove the divider to give them more space to explore. Give the bedding a mix when you remove the divider to integrate all their scents. Stay near the tank with gloves at the ready for the first 20 minutes or so, just in case something goes wrong. If there are minor disagreements, try and distract them. You can call them, offer them food, or add in a new toy. But if there's lots of aggressive chasing that doesn't let up, severe side arching, or bullfights, you may need to split them again and go back to step 2. If they're good and show lots of positive signs, you can maybe add something like an open top sand bath. Monitor them closely and watch out for any arguments over the new item. If you find them arguing over something, remove it for today and try and add 2 of them tomorrow so they don't have to share. This applies for all future item additions too. After another successful day, I like to upgrade the space before adding anything else. So you can upgrade them to their main tank, add their bonding bedding, this is where your stash comes in handy, and the sand bath. Make sure to keep the bedding low for now so you can monitor them closely. If you're bonding in their regular tank and they already have all their space, you can skip this step. After a successful day in the upgraded tank, you can start adding hides. Add 1 at a time each day, observing closely for any arguments until you've added all you want to add underground. Make sure all hides have multiple exits. This is so that if a fight were to break out, no one could get trapped or cornered. If they're okay with all the hides and there were no fights over them, you can start increasing the bedding. Layer the new bedding with bedding from their split tank. I tried to do this slowly, but they ended up burying everything, so the tank got filled. but I kept the smaller topper for a couple of days so I could see through it easier and make sure there were no issues. If you've got a divider set up, you could partially fill the burrow side on one day, then fully fill it the next. If you have a topper, you can add this a day or two after increasing your bedding. Monitor them closely to make sure there's no fights over anything. If there is, remove it until you can add 2 of them. If you want to, you can now add single entrance hides one at a time to the topper or low bedding area. Keep a very close eye on them and remove them if there's any tension or squabbles over them. Make sure you don't put single entrance hides underground for bonded pairs, it's way too risky as you can't monitor them. Now, just because your gerbils have bonded, it doesn't mean they're guaranteed to stay that way. They could still fall out later on, so they need careful management to try and make sure the bond is a lasting one. One of the biggest things to remember is to approach free roaming with caution. It can cause bonded pairs to argue more. I've had it happen with Luna and Misty, and Anna has it frequently with her bonded pairs. To try and limit the issues, give them at least a week together in their full setup before attempting free roaming. Try and free roam them in a neutral area that neither have seen before. You may need to get a whole new playpen. And make sure there's no sense of other gerbils or animals, as this could possibly trigger them to fall out. The bathtub seems to work well, even when other areas fail. And make sure to always supervise their free roam time. If there are scuffles, try and distract them.
Hey, girls. That's it, be nice.
But pairs may need to be free roamed separately if there's constant or severe arguments. Keep an eye on them when they're back in the enclosure and make sure there aren't any issues. Some gerbils may get angsty even when only one of them has been out, so free roaming may need to be limited, at least initially. I'm still trying to figure out the whole free roam situation and the nuances of it. It's a lot more complicated than I can go over here. It may need its own video. If that's something you think will be helpful, let me know in the comments. When changing bedding, make sure to always keep some of their old bedding, unless there's a medical issue that means they need to be on kitchen roll for a time. Make sure there are no single entrance hides underground. You may be able to use them in a topper, low bedding area or free roam area if you monitor them closely and there's no arguments. Try and make sure there's multiple ways in and out of all areas, including the topper or low bedding area, so one gerbil can't prevent the other from accessing them. Watch them carefully when adding a new item. If they fight over something, remove it until you can add 2. Always scatter feed to prevent fights or resource guarding. You can also hand feed a little as long as you make sure they both get access. In a situation where you need to use a bowl, such as wet food for teeth issues, use 2 bowls placed as far apart as possible. It's also worth considering using 2 water sources. If you're offering one a treat, make sure to offer the other one too so they learn to come to you for food rather than steal. Initially, you may need to wave the treat in their face to get their attention if they instinctively chase the other gerbil, but over time they should learn to come to you instead. It's important that you don't separate them for more than a few hours, as gerbils forget each other quickly. For separate free roam time, mine get a maximum of 30 minutes each, usually 15, with brief time together in the tank in between. If you notice tension develop between the pair, and there's lots of arguments and chasing happening, preemptively put them back in the split tank for a few days. It's better to do this than to wait for it to escalate into a possibly severe fight and fallout that can't be repaired. And, worst case scenario, what to do if your split tank fails. If there's a fight but no blood is drawn, put them back into the split and don't attempt another meet for at least a few days. Continue swapping sides as usual during their separation. If there's a fight and blood is drawn, but there's only mild injuries, completely separate them for a week or so into their own enclosures and treat their injuries. Then, once they've fully healed, try again with a split tank. If there was severe fighting to the point of mauling, don't attempt to continue bonding them. It's unlikely to work and puts the gerbils at too much risk. But a mild fight with only mild injuries may still have a chance at success. If there are constant aggressive signs either in the split or on meets that don't let up after a month or so, separate them into their own enclosures, possibly own rooms if they're stressed by the other gerbil being nearby. You can maybe try again with the split one more time after they've had a week or so separated. If the split fails multiple times, try a different parent if you're able to. The gerbils that failed may just not be compatible. But if you're not able to try a different pairing, consider setting them up as neighbours, ideally with toppers so they can interact through the bars. But a split playpen could also work for some interaction time. But if they're showing signs of stress or aggravation, such as attacking the bars when the other gerbil is nearby, move them apart until they're comfortable. If you only have one aggressor who gets angry living as neighbours, it may be best to leave the aggressor solo and find a new friend for the friendlier gerbil. So now that we've covered all that, there's only one more thing you need before you get started: a secure tank divider. And luckily, I have a video showing you exactly how to make just that. So click on that, and I'll see you over there. Thanks for watching.